Near midnight, Whitethorn held its breath. The sky tasted of rain. A lantern swung by the saloon door and spilled a circle of dull gold. Eliza Hart stepped into that circle and paused, hat low, coat dusty, boots nicked from long miles. She touched a small scar on her wrist. Then she pushed inside. The Midnight Saloon was warm and watchful. Smoke climbed the beams. The room smelled of whiskey and iron. A stove ticked. Cards whispered. A red curtain trembled at a loose window. Men looked at her, then away. She went to the bar. "Evening," the barkeep said, beard neat as a Bible ribbon. "Storm is waiting." "Storms like to be seen first," she said. He poured. The whiskey burned, and then it softened. In the bar mirror, she watched the room. Behind the curtain, a woman laughed once, brave and tired at once. The door sighed again. A tall man entered, long coat, hat brim wet, though no rain had fallen. He moved like a river that had decided, quiet and without favor. A scar nicked his jaw. No one used his name, but the air seemed to hold it. Calder Pike. He saw her. She saw him. Something passed that was not words. He took a chair near the stove. A man in a buffalo vest waited there. Too many teeth when he smiled. Coins clicked. A ledger lay open. Calder leaned in. He did not sit back. He sat forward like a wolf at a stream. "You carry the road, miss," the barkeep said to Eliza. "The kind that keeps a person awake." "Sleep has rules," she said. "I forgot them." The piano tried a tender hymn. It did not fit, but it tried. A boy rushed in with the post. The barkeep fished a folded sheet and handed it to a deputy by the window. The deputy read. He looked at Calder. He looked again. Calder kept reading the ledger. Eliza watched him. His quiet steadied her. She did not love that. She did. The heart is a stubborn horse. It runs toward water, even when water means risk. The deputy stood. "Pike," he said. "You will come with me." Calder did not answer. His hand slid inside his coat. The room held its air. The buffalo vest man smiled wider. Eliza's hand hovered near her holster. Calder set a silver watch on the table. The chain made a small sound. He lifted his eyes. Something old moved behind them. "Time keeps me," he said. "Not you." "The warrant says otherwise," the deputy said. The vest man leaned back. "Let him sing before the rope." But then she whispered, and the night bent. Eliza did not mean to speak. "He is not yours to take." Heads turned. Her voice put a mirror on the table. She did not know this man. She knew a tone. It was the tone a body makes when a second chance steps out of the dark. The deputy raised the paper. "Calder Pike. Bank convoy at Red Hollow. 2 riders down. 1 box gone." Calder watched the stove. He did not deny. He did not claim. The flame flicked like it knew his story. Eliza paid. Her boots took the path between tables. Men shifted without meaning to. She reached the deputy and held out her hand. "Let me read." He hesitated. She did not blink. He gave it over. The ink had smudged. "Riders were masked," she read. "He was named by a whisper." She looked up. Whisper does not weigh much in a court. "You a lawyer?" the deputy said. "Only a heart that dislikes a loaded game." The vest man chuckled. Games are better loaded. She looked at him. The fur on his shoulder held a fine dust. She knew the scent. Saltpeter and char. Powder clings when a crate splits. Eliza turned back to Calder. "You wear the look of a man with reasons," she said. "Reasons can be weighed, not in a backroom parade." Calder's eyes steadied on her. Thanks lived there, also warning, "Do not step into my river." The deputy shifted. "I do not have time for soft eyes. Stand aside." Calder rose, taller than the problem. He hung his hat on the chair back, hands empty. "Let me finish what I came to read," he said. Then I will walk." "He will run," the vestman said. Calder glanced at the ledger. Names, dates. Wait. A column marked Blackthorn. His jaw worked. He opened the watch. Inside was a small picture, a boy's face. The hinge clicked. Something in him broke and set again. Eliza felt it. A winter creak in her memory, a glove on a branch, a voice that never called back. She breathed slow. The first fat drop of rain found the dust outside. The deputy reached. Calder did not move. Eliza slid left. She drew the ledger an inch toward her. The vestman's sleeve twitched. A small derringer bloomed. The piano faded. Cards paused. The deputy lifted his head like a mule scenting catclaw. Eliza snapped the ledger shut. The derringer turned to her. She met the vestman's eyes and smiled like a noon chapel door. Small, bright, unafraid. "Careful," he said. "Paper cuts." "Powder stains worse," she said. He blinked. He had not known what clung to his fur, or he had not cared. Calder's voice was low. "Leave her out of this." "I came to read," she said, "not to be left." Rain began in truth. The roof tapped a soft code. Men exhaled without knowing. The world smelled edged. The deputy eased in, slow, trying not to wake a snake. Eliza slid the ledger toward Calder. Their fingers met for an instant, warm, solid, a spark like the click before a shot. She drew back first. He did not forget it. The vestman's smile thinned. "Your time is done, Pike." Calder folded the watch. "Not yet." Eliza spoke before fear could. "If you take him, take me too." The deputy stared. "Why?" "Because you are about to make a mistake," she said. "And I am not going to watch a mistake become a grave." The derringer cocked. The stove popped. A horse shook rain from its mane. "Look at his vest," Eliza said. "Powder on the fur. Ask your paper if the convoy crate split. Ask who leaned into it." The deputy faltered. He looked at the fur. He did not know what he did not know. That is how truth begins. The derringer wavered. The room shifted. The vestman snarled a word. To be continued beneath the stormlight. If this first spark has warmed a quiet corner in you, stay close. The night still has roads we have not ridden. Let your presence be known. Your listening keeps this fire alive. The rain turned mean. It hammered the roof until words had to shout to live. Lightning licked the window, and every gun in the saloon gleamed once like a truth found too late. Calder Pike did not move, neither did Eliza. The deputy's hand shook just enough for the derringer man to see it. "You'll hang with him, lady," the man hissed. Eliza's voice came soft, clear as wind through sage. "You can't hang what the desert hasn't caught." A shot cracked. Wood splintered. The mirror behind the bar shattered into 100 trembling moons. The Derringer man dropped before he realized the bullet had come from Calder's hip. Quick, sure, silent. The way he did everything. He had drawn and fired in the same heartbeat that the lightning had found the window. Smoke curled in the silence. The deputy stood, breath loud in his chest. Eliza's ears rang with thunder and whiskey. Her pulse hurt. But Calder's hand was steady when he picked up the fallen ledger and held it out to her. "Page 19, he said. "Look at the shipments." She flipped it open. The ink bled where rain had touched. "Blackthorn crates. Same ones from Red Hollow," she whispered. He nodded once. They weren't carrying silver. They were carrying rifles. The deputy swore under his breath. "You saying this saloon's been running guns through my town?" "I'm saying someone's been using your badge to hide it," Calder said. He didn't look at the deputy when he spoke, only at the storm. Eliza closed the book. "Then we need to move before morning." "Why?" the deputy asked. She met his eyes. "Because dawn brings questions. And bodies make answers too easy." Calder slipped the ledger into his coat. The watch clicked shut again. That small sound of promise and regret. The barkeep appeared from the shadows, face pale. "I don't want trouble here." Calder's tone was dry as gunpowder. "Then pour another drink for the ghost on the floor." The barkeep poured. Outside, the storm softened, tired from its fury. Eliza touched Calder's arm. "We can't just walk out." He studied her. "You have a better plan?" She hesitated. Her father's voice came from a far memory. "Trust gets you killed, girl. Silence keeps you alive." But that silence had already cost too much. "Yes," she said. "Back door. Stables near the canyon cut. My horse can take 2. He didn't ask how she knew. He just nodded. They moved fast. The deputy followed, torn between duty and something older, the need to believe a man could still be right in a crooked place. At the door, Calder stopped. "You don't owe me this." Eliza pulled her hat low. "You're right. I don't. But something in me wants to." The wind shoved the door open, and the night swallowed them. They ran beneath the black sky, boots splashing through puddles that smelled of iron and rain. The stable loomed, lantern low, horses restless. Eliza untied her mare. "She's nervous but quick," she said. Calder glanced toward the ridge. "They'll ride after us." "They'll try." When she swung into the saddle, he took the reins without looking up at her face. "You trust easy," he murmured. She smiled faintly. "No, I trust loud when it's right." They rode. The town fell behind, a flicker of light, a whisper of music, the ghost of a man cooling on a saloon floor. Wind tore at their coats. The desert opened its vast black heart before them. Calder didn't speak for miles. Then, low, he said, "You shouldn't have done that." Eliza looked at him through the rain. "Maybe I needed to." He nodded once. "Then we're both fools," she smiled. "Fools live longer than liars." The moon slipped from behind the clouds, pale, cracked, beautiful. It painted the canyon walls in silver sorrow. They reached a narrow ledge where the trail broke in two. Calder pulled the horse to a stop. We'll rest here till light. Eliza dismounted, boots sinking into wet sand. The wind had teeth, but it carried the clean scent of freedom. Calder knelt, struck a match, and fed a small flame from a scrap of dry cloth. Firelight caught his face, tired, haunted, human. He looked up. You could still turn back. Tell the law you were tricked. I won't. Why? Because you're not lying. His eyes softened. How do you know? She sat beside the fire, coat pulled close. A liar doesn't tremble when he remembers his son. He froze. The match burned down to his fingers. Eliza met his gaze. I saw the picture in your watch. He didn't move, didn't speak. Only the wind answered, low and broken. After a long while, he said, he was 7. Wanted a horse of his own. I was too late getting home. Eliza's throat closed. Storm took him? Men. Same ones behind those rifles. The fire popped, sending up a small spark that vanished in the dark. Eliza reached out, fingers brushing his sleeve. Then we'll end it. Together. He turned, eyes steady but wet. You don't even know me. She smiled, quiet and sure. Maybe I finally do. The flame flickered higher, throwing gold against their faces. 2 strangers bound by loss, finding warmth in a night that didn't promise mercy. Somewhere beyond the ridge, hooves thundered faintly in the distance. Calder listened. They've found our trail. Eliza rose, brushing dust from her knees. Then let's give them a story worth chasing. The firelight trembled in the wind, a heartbeat of hope before the next storm. If this night's ride has stirred something tender inside you, keep close. The desert isn't done speaking, and neither are they. Dawn came slow over the desert, like a breath remembered. The storm had passed, but its scent lingered, wet sage, gunpowder, and the ghost of thunder. Calder Pike led the horse along a narrow canyon trail. Eliza rode behind him, coat drawn close, eyes on the pale fire crawling across the horizon. They hadn't spoken in an hour. Silence had its own weight, heavy but not cruel. Tell me what's at the end of this trail, she said. An old hideout, Calder answered. Half burned, half forgotten. Like you. He smiled, a small thing that never reached his eyes. You don't waste your words, do you? Only when they're needed. The canyon walls rose around them, red rock and memory. Ravens circled high, calling to a sun that didn't care. Eliza shifted in the saddle. That man at the saloon, he wasn't working alone, was he? Calder shook his head. No, there's a network. Guns, whiskey, and whatever blood they can sell. Red Hollow was just the beginning. Her voice lowered. And your boy? He hesitated. Wrong place, wrong wagon. They wanted the rifles, didn't care who stood in the way. She closed her eyes for a beat, feeling the ache of a wound that wasn't hers, but lived inside her now. I'm sorry. Don't be. Just help me end it. The horse stopped at a fork where the trail split. A narrow pass to the east and a dry riverbed to the west. Calder dismounted, crouched, and pressed his hand to the earth. Fresh tracks. 3 riders, he said, half a mile behind. Eliza slid down beside him. Deputy? Maybe. Or the ones who paid him. The desert held its breath again. A tumbleweed rolled through the silence like time moving sideways. Calder stood, eyes on the ridge. We take the riverbed, quieter that way. Eliza nodded, and together they led the horse down into the hollow. The sand was damp underfoot. The air smelled of stone and distance. As they moved, Calder's voice softened, low, deliberate, the kind a man uses when he's speaking more to ghosts than to the living. "You ever lose something you weren't supposed to keep?" Eliza looked at him. "Every day." He glanced back at her. "Then you know how it feels, to touch peace and realize it won't stay." "I know," she whispered, "but sometimes it stays long enough to remind you what you are." The wind shifted, hooves echoed faintly behind them. "They're close," Calder said. "We can't outrun them on open ground." Eliza scanned the cliffs. "There's a cave up there. See that split in the rock?" He followed her gaze. "It'll do." They climbed fast, scrambling through loose shale and thorn brush until the narrow mouth of the cave swallowed them. Inside, the air was cool and silent, thick with the smell of dust and old rain. Eliza struck a match. Firelight flickered against the walls, revealing faded marks, handprints, charred wood, a rusted lantern left behind by some forgotten traveller. Calder unslung his rifle and checked the chamber. "We'll wait here." She nodded, breath uneven. "You've done this before." "Too many times." She crouched by the wall, arms around her knees. "You ever think of stopping?" "Every time, but the road keeps calling." "And you keep answering." He looked at her. "Don't you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she took the small flask from her belt and offered it. "Whiskey," she said, "for the nerves." He took a sip, grimaced, and handed it back. "Burns right." "Good," she said softly. "Means you're still alive." Outside, a crow screamed, a harsh sound that carried too far. Calder tensed. Then came the sound of hooves again, closer, slower, cautious. Eliza moved beside him, whispering, "If it comes to it, you shoot to live, not to win." He glanced at her, and for a second the firelight caught something in his face, care, reluctant and dangerous. "You ever kill a man?" he asked. She met his gaze. "Once, and I've been trying to forget ever since." The hoofbeats stopped. A voice called from below the ridge. "Pike, come down easy. We just want to talk." Calder laughed quietly. "They always say that." He leaned near the cave mouth and shouted back, "You've got two choices. Ride home or stay buried here." A rifle cracked in answer. Rock splintered beside Eliza's shoulder. She flinched, ducking low. "They don't sound like men who plan to go home." Calder chambered around. "Then we'll send them anyway." He moved with calm precision, kneeling at the edge, eyes narrowing through the smoke of the match. Another shot rang out. Calder fired back, and the echo rolled through the canyon like thunder waking the dead. When the dust settled, only one horse was left standing below. The others had fled into the ravine. Eliza's chest heaved. "You hit him?" "Maybe. Maybe he'll think twice next time." They waited, still listening. Nothing but the wind now. Eliza sank back against the stone. "You'll have the whole territory after you soon." He gave a tired half smile. "Wouldn't be the first time." Her gaze softened. "Then maybe you should stop running and start proving." He turned toward her. "Proving what?" "That some things in this world can still be made right." The fire cracked softly between them. Outside, the first full light of dawn broke over the cliffs, touching their faces in gold. Calder looked at her, really looked, past the dirt and the danger. "You don't scare easy." Neither do you. He reached out, brushed a grain of dust from her cheek. His fingers hesitated there, long enough for her breath to catch. "Careful," she whispered. "That's how promises start." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm tired of breaking them." The silence after that wasn't empty. It was full of warmth, of waiting, of something neither dared name yet. Then came the sound again, distant but real, a whistle, metal on stone. Eliza stood, scanning the horizon. More riders, not the same ones. Calder rose beside her. Then the real chase begins. The desert stretched ahead, endless, unforgiving, and alive. Behind them, the sun lifted, turning the canyon into a river of fire. If this dawn has stirred the dust inside your heart, ride with them a little longer. The road ahead burns brighter and more dangerous than either of them knows. The desert opened wide beneath the morning sun, a sea of gold dust and shadows. Eliza's mare galloped hard, hooves throwing sparks off the stones. Calder rode close beside her, the wind tearing through his coat, rifles slung across his back like a promise he wasn't done keeping. Behind them, riders, 3 at least, maybe 4. Gunfire cracked, echoing through the canyon walls like thunder remembering its duty. "Keep low!" Calder shouted. Eliza ducked close to the saddle, her braid whipping against her shoulder. "I thought you said we lost them." He gave a half smile, wild and alive. "Guess they missed me." The desert floor broke ahead into a maze of rock and dry creek beds. Calder pointed left, then veered right instead. The riders followed his dust, fooled by instinct. He looked back. "They'll split at the ridge. We'll lose them near the bluff." Eliza's horse stumbled on a loose stone, but found its balance. "And if we don't?" He glanced at her. "Then we make them regret the chase." They rode until the sun climbed high and cruel. The wind turned hot, carrying the smell of blood and sage. Finally, Calder pulled the reins, guiding them beneath a jut of sandstone that cast a thin shadow. They dismounted, breath sharp and shallow. Eliza pulled her hat off, wiping dust from her face. "You always draw this kind of trouble?" He shrugged. "Trouble's the only thing that keeps me company." She gave him a long look. "You sound like you want to believe that." He didn't answer. He just knelt, checking his rifle, the barrel still warm, the metal glinting in the harsh light. Eliza crouched beside him. "You don't have to run forever, Calder." He met her gaze. "And where would I go? Men like me don't get towns. We get wanted posters." Her voice softened. "Maybe you just haven't ridden far enough yet." He smiled faintly, eyes tracing the horizon. "Maybe." The wind shifted. A hawk cried overhead, circling wide before vanishing into the blue. Calder watched it go. "I used to think freedom meant being alone," he said quietly. "And now? Now I'm not so sure." Her breath caught. "What changed your mind?" "You did." Eliza looked down, suddenly aware of how close they were, their shadows nearly touching in the dust. "You talk like a man with something to lose," she said. "Maybe for the first time, I do." Silence stretched. The desert didn't move. Even the wind seemed to wait. Then, distant hooves again, faint but sure. They were being hunted still. Calder rose. They're good. Whoever's behind them isn't giving up. Eliza loaded her revolver, eyes hard. Then, neither do we. They climbed the ridge together, leading the horse up a steep rise until the land flattened into open scrub. From there, they could see for miles, sand, bones, and the shimmer of a river far off to the west. Eliza shaded her eyes. There's water ahead. Calder nodded. That'll slow the trail. We camp there tonight. They moved quietly for hours. By dusk, the world turned copper and quiet. They reached the river, thin and shallow, cutting through the rocks like an old scar. Eliza knelt, cupping water in her hands. It tasted of stone and iron. She drank anyway. Calder built a small fire from driftwood and dry grass. When the flames caught, the night leaned close. "Tell me something true," she said. He looked at her over the fire. "What do you want to hear?" "The part of you that still remembers peace." Calder's jaw worked, silent for a long while. Then, "There was a time," he said slowly, "when I thought love could save a man. My wife believed it, even when I stopped. She died still believing. I keep trying to live up to that lie." Eliza's eyes softened. "That's not a lie, Calder. That's a map you're still following." He studied her face, the way firelight played across her skin, the dust at her throat, the quiet steadiness in her gaze. "You sound like someone who's lost the same thing." She nodded. "A brother. Sheriff's badge. He died chasing outlaws that never looked back." He frowned. "And you kept looking?" "I looked until I found one worth seeing." Calder's breath caught. The fire popped between them, small embers rising like words left unsaid. "Careful," he murmured. "That sounds like faith." "Maybe it is," she said. "Maybe that's what you've been running from." He reached across the fire, fingertips grazing hers. It wasn't a bold touch, just enough to test what silence could hold. The heat between them deepened, not the fires, but something quieter, older. "Eliza," he began, voice rough. "Don't," she whispered. "Not yet." "Why?" "Because if we start something now, it won't end gentle." He drew his hand back slowly. "Nothing in my life ever has." She looked into the flames. "Then maybe it's time something did." The wind rose again, carrying the scent of rain, soft this time, like forgiveness, trying to find a way home. He leaned back against the rock, staring into the fire. "You should rest. We ride at first light." She smiled faintly. "You always give orders like that? Only to people I don't want to lose." Eliza turned away, hiding her smile in the dark. "Then you'd better stay close, cowboy." He watched her settle near the fire, hat over her eyes. The moonlight touched her face, silver and quiet. Calder Pike had been many things, outlaw, widower, fugitive. But as he listened to her slow breathing beneath the desert sky, he realized he had not felt peace in years. And now, for the first time, he was afraid of losing it. Somewhere beyond the dunes, a lone coyote cried, a long, broken sound that faded into the wind. If this chapter has lit a small flame in your chest, don't let it die yet. The night still hides more than truth. By dawn, both hearts will be tested in fire. The dawn came soft and red, bleeding slow across the desert floor. The rain had ended in the night, leaving the air clean and sharp. Smoke from their dying fire curled into the pale sky like a prayer that had found no words. Eliza stirred first. She sat up, hair tangled, breath misting in the chill. Calder was already awake, sitting near the ashes with his rifle across his knees. His eyes were fixed on the horizon. He hadn't slept. "You watch the sunrise like it owes you something," she said quietly. He glanced back, faint smile at the corner of his mouth. "It does. Everyone I get is stolen time." She wrapped her coat tighter. "Then keep stealing it." He rose, brushed dust from his knees, and looked out over the river's shimmer. The light caught on the edge of his scar. "They'll be coming again. No one lets go of money, or guns, that easy." Eliza walked to him, standing close enough to feel the heat still clinging to his body. "You plan to face them alone?" "That's how I've always done it." Her voice dropped. "That's why you keep losing." He turned to her then, slow, deliberate. His eyes were tired but alive. "You think you can save me?" She held his gaze. "No. But I can stand beside you while you try." The words hung between them, heavy as the still air before a storm. He reached out, almost without meaning to, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His hand lingered near her cheek. "Eliza," he murmured, "you don't know what kind of man I am." She didn't move away. "Then show me. Not what you were, what you are now." He hesitated, jaw tight, breath slow. Something broke in the quiet. He leaned in. The first kiss came like everything in their world, rough, real, and slow enough to hurt. Her lips tasted of dust and whiskey. His hand cupped her neck, calloused thumb tracing the soft line beneath her jaw. When they parted, she kept her eyes closed a moment longer, as if afraid the morning would vanish if she opened them. He stepped back, voice rough. "I shouldn't have—" She interrupted him. "Yes, you should have." He almost laughed, shaking his head. "You talk like there's no cost." "There's always a cost," she said. "But for once, maybe it's worth paying." They stood there in the soft gold light, breathing the same air. The silence wasn't fragile anymore. It was full. After a while, Calder broke it. "We move north today. There's an old mining town called Drybell. I know someone there who can help us disappear for a while." "Disappear?" she said. "You mean hide?" He didn't deny it. "Until I can figure who's behind those shipments." Eliza kicked sand over the embers. "Then we ride." By midday, the desert heat had returned with a vengeance. The land shimmered, endless and merciless. They passed the carcass of a wagon half buried in sand, old, bullet-riddled, and picked clean by time. Eliza slowed her horse. "Red Hollow?" Calder nodded once. "What's left of it?" She slid from her saddle, knelt beside the wreckage, and traced a hand along the splintered wood. The faint scorch marks told the rest of the story. Gunfire, panic, loss. She whispered, "He was here, wasn't he?" "Your boy." Calder's voice came low. "He was." She stood, eyes bright with tears she didn't want to show. "Then let's make sure they remember what they did." He looked at her then, not as an outlaw looks at danger, but as a man seeing the only person who still believes he can be more than what the world made him. "Eliza," he said softly, "you make vengeance sound like mercy." "Maybe it is," she answered. For someone who's earned it. The wind rose suddenly, sweeping dust through the canyon. A sound echoed, a far-off rumble of hooves. Calder cursed under his breath. They found us again. Eliza turned, eyes narrowing against the glare. 4 riders. Black coats. No badges. Hunters, not lawmen. "Stay behind me," Calder said. She drew her revolver. Not a chance. They dismounted together, moving behind the wagon. Bullets sparked off the stones. The air filled with smoke and the sharp sting of gunpowder. Eliza fired once, twice. One rider fell hard. Calder took the others with calm precision, the kind that comes from too much practice and too little peace. When the dust settled, only silence remained. The bodies lay still, the horses scattered into the horizon. Eliza leaned against the wreckage, chest heaving. "You're good at this." He reloaded without looking at her. "That's the problem." She stepped closer. "Then what are you bad at?" He met her eyes. "Letting anyone stay." She reached out and touched his hand, firm, steady, unafraid. "Then start learning." He looked down at their joined hands, at the blood and the dust. "You don't understand what this road does to people." Her voice trembled. "Maybe, but I understand what loneliness does." The desert wind caught her hair, lifting it like a whisper. Calder's heart moved in a way it hadn't in years. He let out a breath that felt like surrender. "You're something I never planned for, Eliza Hart." "Good," she said. "Maybe plans were your mistake." He smiled then, tired and alive all at once. She smiled back, and for a fleeting moment the world around them seemed to forget its cruelty. The sun dipped low, bleeding into the red horizon. He packed his rifle, handed her a canteen. "We ride till night. Drybell's only a few hours out." She nodded. "And after that?" He met her gaze. "After that, we see if a man like me can still find peace." The wind carried the scent of rain again, distant and sweet. Eliza looked toward the fading light. "Then let's chase it before it fades." They mounted side by side and rode toward the dying sun, 2 souls bound by fire, blood, and something that finally felt like hope. If this firelight has touched something quiet inside you, stay close to their trail. The road to Drybell waits, and with it, the truth neither of them is ready to face. By the time they reached Drybell, night had already claimed the desert. The sky burned deep indigo, the last edge of sunset bleeding out behind the mesas. Rain clouds gathered again, thick and heavy, rolling like smoke above the silent town. Drybell was dying. Half the buildings leaned like they'd given up on standing. 1 saloon, 1 blacksmith shop, 1 church missing its bell. Wind whistled through broken shutters, carrying the faint smell of whiskey and rust. Calder slowed his horse near the well in the center of town. "Stay close," he said. "This place remembers more ghosts than it does prayers." Eliza scanned the shadows. "You said you knew someone here." "I did." He dismounted. "If he's still breathing, he'll be in the saloon." They tied the horses and walked through the rain beginning to fall. Drops hissed on the roof, dripping down Calder's hat brim. Inside, a few lanterns burned low. A piano sat quiet in the corner, 1 key stuck down like a missing tooth. The bartender looked up. He was old, face lined like dry riverbeds, but his eyes sharpened at the sight of Calder. "Well," he rasped, "I'll be damned if it ain't Pike." "Still serving ghosts, Jeb?" Calder said. "Only the ones that tip." Jeb poured 2 glasses. The whiskey smelled sharp enough to cut open memory. Eliza stood beside Calder, her presence steady, grounding. Jeb nodded toward her. "She trouble?" Calder's voice softened. "She's the reason I'm still alive." Jeb grunted. "Then pour her a better drink." They drank in silence for a while. Rain thickened outside, tapping the windows like impatient fingers. Finally, Jeb leaned in. "I heard what happened at Red Hollow. Word is someone's selling rifles to the border gangs, using your name to cover the trail." Calder's jaw tightened. "Whose hands?" "Same bastards that took your boy." Eliza's hand froze on her glass. "You know them?" Jeb nodded. "One calls himself Finch, owns a freight company out of Elkhorn Ridge. Real polite devil. Always pays in gold, always leaves a trail of graves." Calder's eyes darkened. "He's here?" "Not tonight, but his men pass through every few days. You're about 2 days early or 3 too late." Calder rose slowly. "Then we wait." Jeb frowned. "You'll bring hell to my door, Pike." Calder tossed a coin on the counter. "You already live there." Eliza followed him upstairs to a narrow room above the saloon. A single bed, cracked window, and the smell of old smoke. Lightning flashed outside, white and sharp. She closed the door behind them. "You really think he's the one?" "I know he is." "Then what happens when you find him?" He looked at her. "I end it." Her voice trembled. "And what happens to you after?" He didn't answer. For a long moment, neither spoke. Rain softened against the glass, and the sound filled the room like a heartbeat that refused to die. Eliza stepped closer, her hand brushing the edge of his sleeve. "You can't build peace out of revenge, Calder." He turned to her, eyes burning in the lamplight. "You think I'm looking for peace?" "I think you are," she whispered. "You just don't know what it looks like anymore." He exhaled, slow and heavy. "You're not wrong." Lightning flashed again, filling the room with sudden white. In that breath of light, their faces were inches apart, her eyes searching, his raw with everything he'd tried not to feel. When the thunder rolled, she was already in his arms. The kiss wasn't gentle this time. It was the kind that happens after too much waiting, too much loss. The kind that steals the air and gives it back changed. His hands found her waist, sliding up the damp fabric of her blouse. Her breath caught against his mouth, half sigh, half surrender. She pressed closer, feeling the steady weight of his heart beneath the scars. Rain hammered the roof above them, wild and relentless. The world outside fell away. He broke the kiss first, forehead resting against hers. "Eliza." His voice was low, rough. "This road only ends one way." She cupped his face. "Then let it end honest." They stood there, quiet except for the storm. Every touch was slow, deliberate, reverent, as if both knew the moment was a kind of prayer they'd never say aloud. When the rain eased, she lay against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. He traced small circles on her back, the gesture tender and unguarded. "Been a long time since I felt safe," she whispered. He looked down at her. "You're safe now." "Are you?" He smiled faintly. "Not yet." Outside, thunder rumbled again, softer now, like a tired giant settling into sleep. For the first time in years, Calder Pike closed his eyes without the weight of his past pressing on his chest, and for the first time Eliza Hart dreamed without fear. But beneath the quiet, the wind carried a new sound, distant hoofbeats on the northern road. Finch's riders were coming. If this storm has awakened something warm and fragile inside you, stay close. The night has given them peace, but the dawn will demand a price. The dawn over Drybell broke like a wound, slow, red, and full of warning. The storm had passed, leaving puddles that mirrored the bruised sky. The saloon below was quiet, but not peaceful. Silence there always meant something waiting to happen. Calder Pike was already awake. Shirt half-buttoned, gun belt low on his hips, eyes shadowed from the weight of what came next. He stood at the cracked window, watching the road. Behind him, Eliza stirred. She pulled the blanket closer, the morning chill threading through the room. Her hair fell across her shoulder, soft and wild from the night. She looked at him and saw something breaking beneath the calm. "You didn't sleep," she said. He didn't turn. "Didn't need to. You're thinking about Finch. I'm thinking about ending something that should have died years ago." Eliza rose slowly, wrapping her shawl around her. "And what about what began last night?" That made him turn. The sunlight caught his face, hard, scarred, and suddenly human again. "Eliza," he said quietly, "you gave me something I don't deserve." She walked to him, bare feet soft on the wooden floor. "You keep saying that, like you've already decided how the story ends." "Maybe I have." "Then change it." He almost smiled. "You think it's that easy?" "No," she said, "but I think it's worth it." Downstairs, a door creaked. Boot steps, measured, deliberate. The kind of sound men make when they don't expect to miss. Calder's hand went to his revolver. "They're here." Eliza crossed the room, pulled her blouse tight, fastened her belt. "Then we meet them." He shook his head. "No." "You stay here. I'm not hiding while you bleed for ghosts." "Eliza." "No." Her voice cut clean through the morning. "You taught me that peace isn't found in silence. Don't ask me to forget it now." Their eyes locked. There wasn't time to argue anymore. He nodded once. "Then you stay behind me." She gave a thin smile. "That's the best you'll get." They moved down the stairs together, the wooden steps creaking under their boots. The saloon smelled of rain, whiskey, and something colder, fear, maybe. Jeb was gone. The bar stood empty. Through the front door's crack, Calder saw 3 horses tied to the post. Men in dark dusters waited beyond the porch, rifles resting easy. The one in the center stepped forward. He was tall, clean-shaven, and carried himself like a man used to being obeyed. Finch. "Calder Pike," he called, voice smooth as oil. "You've been hard to find." Calder pushed the door open and stepped into the morning light. "I wasn't hiding." Finch smiled. "That's good. Makes my job easier." He nodded to the men behind him. "We'll take the ledger and the woman." Eliza stepped beside Calder, chin high. "You'll take neither." Finch's eyes slid over her, cold and measuring. "You must be the reason he's thinking slow. Always a woman in stories like this." Calder's voice dropped. "Say another word like that, and this story ends with you in the dirt." Finch laughed softly. "I admire you, Pike. You keep trying to live like the law still remembers your name." "It remembers yours," Calder said. "Written in blood." The moment stretched. Wind rolled down the empty street, pushing dust between them. Finch's smile vanished. "Last chance. Give me the ledger." Calder shook his head. "You'll have to take it." The gunfire came fast. 3 shots cracked the air, sharp, deafening. Eliza ducked behind the porch rail, returning fire with fierce precision. One of Finch's men fell. Another cursed and dove behind a trough. Calder moved like a shadow, swift, silent, deadly. His revolver barked twice, sending echoes through the empty town. Finch backed toward the horses, reloading. "You can't kill what you already lost, Pike," he shouted. Calder's reply was calm, almost sorrowful. "I'm not trying to kill it. I'm just trying to end it." He fired. Finch staggered, clutching his shoulder, dropping his rifle. Eliza rose from behind the rail, revolver steady. "Drop it, Finch. It's over." Finch's laugh came out broken. "Over? You don't know what you've started." He looked past them toward the horizon. More riders, small figures cresting the ridge, silhouettes against the rising sun. Calder swore. "His reinforcements." Finch grinned, blood on his teeth. "You'll both die here." Eliza stepped forward. "Then we die knowing we stopped you." Finch raised his gun again, but Calder was faster. 1 shot, 1 breath, and the sound of a body falling into dust. Silence fell, except for the slow wind moving through the street. Eliza's hand trembled as she lowered her gun. "It's done," she whispered. Calder's eyes stayed on the horizon. No, not yet. The riders were still coming. 5, maybe 6. Too many for a stand. He turned to her, voice low and sure. "There's a way out through the back. Jeb keeps a trail that leads to the hills. Take it." She shook her head, tears in her voice. "Not without you." "Eliza, listen to me." "No." He stepped closer, cupped her face in his hand. "If I stay, it's to make sure you live. Don't make me regret that." Her lips trembled. "You think I can walk away from you now?" He smiled, small and sad. "You'll ride away, and that's the difference." He kissed her once, quick, fierce, full of everything he didn't have time to say. Then he pushed her toward the door. "Go. I'll find you when it's done." She hesitated, then nodded once, eyes shining. "You'd better keep that promise, Calder Pike." He touched the brim of his hat. "You have my word." She slipped through the back door, vanishing into the shadowed alley. Calder reloaded, turned to face the dawn. The riders were nearly at the edge of town now, dark shapes rising through the heat, dust trailing behind them like ghosts. He took a slow breath. Whiskey, rain, her scent still on his hands. "For him," he whispered. "For her." Then he stepped out into the street. If this sunrise stirred something brave in your heart, stay near the fire. The next part will decide what survives, the man, the love, or the legend. The wind swept down Main Street like a warning, rattling the shutters of the empty buildings. Calder Pike stood alone in the dust, revolver heavy at his side, hat brim low over his eyes. The light was sharp now, noon cutting the world clean between shadow and truth. 6 riders thundered into Drybell, dark coats flapping, their leader raising a rifle that gleamed silver in the sun. Calder didn't move. He'd spent a lifetime running from death. This time he meant to face it. The first bullet hit the dirt near his boot. The next one missed his shoulder by an inch. He fired once, clean, measured. A rider fell hard, rolled, didn't rise again. The street erupted with gunfire. The air filled with smoke and grit, the sharp metallic tang of blood already thick on the wind. Calder moved fast, ducking behind the trough, reloading with the cold precision of a man who'd made peace with dying. From the corner of his eye, he saw motion. Eliza, slipping between 2 buildings. His heart stopped. She hadn't left. "Damn it, woman," he muttered under his breath. A bullet grazed his sleeve. He fired back, dropping another rider. The echo cracked across the empty town, scattering the crows perched on the church steeple. "Eliza!" he shouted. "Get out of here!" Her voice came from the alley, steady, defiant. "Not without you!" He swore again, but there was no time to argue. The men were closing in. 2 came from the left. Calder rolled behind a barrel, shot once, twice. Both fell, but another circled wide, climbing the porch rail with a knife in hand. Eliza saw him first. She fired. The man dropped like a cut rope. The shot rang in Calder's chest, louder than the thunder that followed. She'd saved him. Again. He turned, met her eyes through the drifting smoke. Something inside him broke open then, not fear, not rage, just a simple truth. He could no longer imagine this world without her in it. The last 2 riders dismounted, rifles ready. They fanned out, calling, "Pike, come out and die right!" Calder's voice echoed back, calm and cold. "Dying right's the only thing I ever learned." They fired first. He ducked behind the water trough again. Splinters flew. He waited, counted heartbeats, not seconds. When he rose, his shot found one man's chest. The other stumbled, wounded but still standing. He dropped his gun, reaching for his knife. Calder stepped into the open. The man lunged. They met halfway, dust and breath and steel colliding. The knife tore through Calder's side, hot and deep. He grunted, turned, and drove his elbow into the man's jaw. One final pull of the trigger ended it. Silence. Calder staggered, clutching his side. Blood darkened his shirt, spreading slow. He looked up at the sky, clear now, almost gentle. Then Eliza was there, running to him, breath catching in her throat. She reached him just as his knees hit the ground. "Calder, no," she said, catching him before he fell fully. Her hands pressed to his wound, desperate, trembling. "It's fine," he lied, voice barely a whisper. "Just a scratch." Her tears mixed with the dust on his face. "Don't you dare make jokes now." He tried to smile. "Old habits?" She shook her head, voice breaking. "You think you're the only one who's lost too much? Don't take this from me now." He touched her cheek with blood-streaked fingers. "You stayed. I told you I would." The wind died. Only the soft hum of flies and the distant creak of the saloon's sign remained. Eliza tore a strip from her shirt and pressed it against his side. "Hold on," she whispered. "I'll stop the bleeding." He caught her wrist. "Don't waste it. You did what you came to do." Her eyes flared. "I came to find something worth saving." And I found you." He closed his eyes for a moment, fighting the pull of dark. "Eliza," he said softly, "if I don't make it, don't. You burn that ledger. No one else dies for it." She bit her lip, shaking her head. "You're not leaving me to finish your ghosts alone." He smiled faintly. "Guess I don't get to argue with you." "No," she whispered. "You don't." She leaned close, pressing her forehead to his. Her voice was barely sound. "You're not dying today, Calder Pike." "You hear me?" "I hear you," he said. "I just don't believe you." Her tears fell onto his shirt, dark spots blooming over darker stains. She stayed like that, holding him, whispering his name, until the sound of more horses rose in the distance. She turned her head, eyes narrowing. Not Finch's men. These riders wore the dust of law, the deputy's star glinting faintly in the light. Eliza exhaled, relief and dread tangled together. "Help's here." Calder managed a dry laugh. "Help never comes free." She held him tighter. "Then we'll pay whatever it costs." The deputy reined in hard, eyes wide at the sight before him. "Jesus, Pike, what have you done?" Calder's answer came faint, almost amused. "Finally made peace with the West." The deputy dismounted, shouting orders. "Get him inside, now!" Eliza helped them lift Calder, her hands slick with his blood, her heart pounding harder than the thunder before the storm. As they carried him toward the saloon, she looked back once. The street was littered with bodies, the dust already starting to reclaim them. A legend was ending here, one bullet at a time. She whispered to the wind, voice breaking, "You promised to find me when it was done. So you'd better keep that promise, cowboy." And somewhere in the space between pain and mercy, Calder Pike managed one last breath that sounded almost like a laugh. "If this blood and dust have stirred your heart, hold on, because when the desert quiets, the truth that's left will decide whether love can survive what vengeance began." The rain returned before nightfall. Not the violent kind this time, soft, steady, the sort that cleans the blood from the earth without asking what caused it. Inside the saloon, a single lamp burned low. Calder Pike lay on a table near the bar, shirt cut open, his side bound tight with bandages that were already red. The deputy knelt beside him, pressing a rag to the wound. Eliza stood at his head, hands trembling but steady where it mattered. "He's losing too much," the deputy said. Eliza's voice was calm, almost eerily so. "Then hold harder." Jeb hovered near the door, hat in hand. "Got a preacher in town," he murmured. "You want I should fetch him?" Eliza didn't look up. "He's not dying tonight." Calder stirred faintly, eyes fluttering open. "You sound sure of that." She leaned over him, her face pale in the lamplight. "I told you before, you don't get to argue with me." He smiled, weak but real. "Still bossy." "Still breathing," she said. The deputy sat back, wiping his hands. "Bullet passed through, missed the lung by a whisper. He's tough, might just live to trouble us all again." Eliza exhaled, the fight leaving her shoulders. "That's the best news I've heard in months." The deputy looked at her. "You've got a strange way of showing affection, ma'am." She brushed a lock of hair from Calder's forehead. "It's the only way the West understands." Hours passed. The town slept. The rain whispered against the roof like forgiveness learning to speak. Eliza sat beside him, watching the rise and fall of his chest. His breathing was shallow, but steady now. The worst had passed. She took his hand, rough, calloused, scarred from too many battles, and held it between both of hers. "You can stop fighting for a while," she said softly. "The world isn't chasing you tonight." He stirred, eyes half open. "It will again." "Then let it," she whispered. "We'll be ready next time." He blinked slowly, trying to focus on her face. "You should have left when I told you." She smiled faintly. "And miss all this peace and romance? Not a chance." He chuckled, then winced at the pain. "You make danger sound beautiful." She leaned closer. "That's because it's the only place I ever found truth." The fire crackled low. For a long moment, they just breathed the same quiet air. Finally, Calder spoke again, voice rough but sure. "When I lost my boy, I thought the world was done with mercy. I carried that weight so long, it started feeling like home." Eliza's thumb brushed his knuckles. "You don't have to carry it anymore." He looked at her, eyes clear for the first time in years. "You sure?" "I'm sure," she said, "because I'll carry it with you." He stared at her, and something inside him shifted, like a man waking from a long winter. The hard edges in his voice softened. "You talk like you still believe in redemption." "I do." He smiled weakly. "Then maybe I will too." Outside, thunder rolled far away, only a memory now, echoing off the hills. Eliza stood, walking to the window. The moon broke through the clouds, silver light spilling across the wet street. Bodies gone. Dust washed clean. Only puddles remained, mirrors reflecting a quieter world. She turned back to him. "What happens now?" Calder's eyes drifted to the ceiling. "We finish it." "The man who paid Finch, the one who wanted those rifles, he's still out there." Her brow furrowed. "You think you can hunt him in that condition?" He smirked faintly. "I've hunted worse with less blood in me." She crossed back to him and leaned down, her voice low. "You could stay, you know. Let someone else carry the fight." He met her eyes. "And what would I be then?" Her hand rested against his chest. "A man who finally learned to rest." He closed his eyes, breathing in her nearness, the warmth of her touch. "You make that sound easy." "Nothing worth keeping ever is." She sat beside him again, and for a while they said nothing. The storm eased, the rain slowing to a soft rhythm that matched the faint beat of his heart beneath her palm. When he finally spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. "If I don't make it, tell him, tell my boy, I kept my promise." Her voice broke. "He already knows." He opened his eyes, found hers shining with tears. "You always this sure of things?" "Only the ones that matter." He smiled, eyes heavy with sleep. "Stay close, Eliza Hart. The night's long." "I'm not going anywhere." He drifted then, caught between waking and rest, between pain and peace. She sat beside him, holding his hand through every breath, guarding him like a secret the desert wasn't allowed to take. Outside, the wind carried the faint scent of dawn coming. If this quiet has reached you, if it stirred the hope of something still worth saving, stay with them. Because when the sun rises, love and redemption will have to face what neither bullet nor storm could stop. The truth. Dawn came soft over Drybell, pale gold spilling across the wet street. The saloon's sign creaked in the morning wind, and for the first time in years the air carried no scent of gunpowder, only rain, dust, and renewal. Eliza Hart stood at the window, watching light crawl over the empty town. Behind her, Calder stirred on the bed. His breathing was slow, steady now. The fever had broken sometime near midnight. She turned when she heard his voice, quiet, worn, but alive. "You're still here." "I told you I would be." He smiled faintly. "You don't listen well." "Only when it matters," she said. She walked to him, poured water into a tin cup, and held it to his lips. He drank, then rested back, eyes half-lidded. "You ever get tired of saving broken things?" "Only when they stop trying to heal." He let out a low laugh, the sound rasped but warm. "Then you picked the wrong man." "No," she said softly. "I picked the only one who still looks for the horizon after the storm." Silence settled between them, not heavy, not awkward, just full. Outside, the deputy and Jeb moved quietly, clearing the wreckage from yesterday. They worked without words, like men who'd learned respect through survival. Calder shifted, trying to sit. "You should go. The law's still got questions, and I've got more ghosts than they have bullets." Eliza steadied him with a hand on his shoulder. "I'll go when you can walk beside me." He looked up at her, eyes tracing every line of her face. "You mean that?" "I've never said anything truer." He closed his eyes, breathed in slow. "I used to think a man like me didn't deserve another dawn." "And now?" she asked. He opened his eyes, met hers. "Now I think maybe the desert was just waiting to forgive me." Eliza smiled, the kind that reached her eyes. "Or maybe it sent me to do it instead." She sat on the edge of the bed, her hand finding his. Their fingers intertwined, dust, scars, warmth. Through the open window, a soft breeze wandered in, carrying the smell of wet sage and sun-warmed wood. Calder looked toward the light. "You ever wonder if peace is real, Eliza?" She thought for a moment. "No, I think it's a choice. We just forget we can make it." He nodded slowly. "Then maybe it's time I did." They sat there in the golden silence, two souls that had lost everything, finding what neither had dared hope for: stillness. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet, almost a prayer. "I spent my life learning to fight. Maybe now I'll learn to stay." Eliza squeezed his hand. "Stay as long as you can stand the quiet." He smiled. "As long as it's quiet beside you." The light grew stronger, spilling over them both. Outside, the deputy mounted his horse, tipping his hat toward the saloon. "He's earned his peace," he muttered. Jeb nodded. "Ain't many men get to die twice and live both times." Eliza watched them ride off, their figures fading into the bright morning haze. Calder spoke softly behind her. "What'll we do now?" She turned, eyes shining. "Whatever we want. The frontier's wide enough for both ghosts and second chances." He reached out, his voice rough but steady. "Come here, Eliza." She crossed to him, sat on the edge of the bed, and let his hand rest over her heart. "Still beating," he said. "Still yours," she whispered. He kissed her then, slow, tender, grateful. It wasn't the kiss of a man chasing redemption, but of one who'd finally found it. When they parted, she laid her forehead against his. "You think the West will remember us?" Calder smiled. "The West remembers everything. It just buries it under dust and legend." They stayed that way, wrapped in light and silence, the storm behind them, the horizon waiting. Outside, the desert breathed again, alive, endless, forgiving. And somewhere, in that wind that never stopped moving, a boy's laughter echoed faintly, carried away into peace. If this story has warmed a quiet corner of your heart, let your light stay with us. Like, share, or leave a word beneath the western sky, so this fire keeps burning, one story at a time.